The Leafs looking for answers as the Wings sweep them away.
And the Kings rally but fall in the skills competition.
All that and so much more coming up on this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Welcome on in to our first holiday edition of the year on Locked On NHL Game Night. And our prize tonight, Alex Wiederspiel, 10 games on the docket. That's who he is. I'm Cam Stewart. We're bringing you all that happened in the NHL last night on Canadian Thanksgiving, American Columbus Day, which means we had games on Eastern time from 1 p.m. all the way up till basically midnight when that last one ended. It was a full day of hockey. And where else can we start Canadian Thanksgiving but the team that just makes us so thankful whenever our teams lose every year? Yes, we're heading to Toronto, and we're talking about the Maple Leafs. It's an original six, a little old-fashioned, Alex. Home and home, right? Saturday to a holiday Monday. The Red Wings got the first one on Saturday. A couple empty netters made it 6-3, and all of Toronto was hyped because it was Easton Cowan's debut in this one. And the Leafs played really well, Alex, but it didn't go their way. I think this is the first time we've seen this year such a lopsided game not go the way of the team that outshot the other one by 25.
Yeah, even compared to the other night, the Rangers Capitals, which was pretty lopsided in the Rangers' favor, and Charlie Lindgren really blanked them. This was like on the Detroit broadcast, they were comparing Cam Talbot to Dominic Hasek. That's how good Talbot was in this game.
The number 39, I believe, was the comparison.
That's exactly right. Yeah, man.
Easton Cowan does play well in his debut, but the rest just doesn't really go well for Toronto. Dylan Larkin gets a power play goal in the first period. They get another one in the third period from JVR, James Van Riemsdyk, first one against his old team on his new team for Detroit. And at that point, they're up 2-0. They're being outshot 28-12. That continues to be the theme because Austin Matthews gets a golden chance right after that, gets denied twice by Talbot. Looks like it's just not going to be their night. They end up coming back. They tie it up at 2-2. Matthew Nyes gets his first of the season. Kelly Yarncroke, his second game-tying goal of the season. And then with 44 seconds left, Mason Appleton, his first goal as a Red Wing, little off balance, just pound the puck, kid. And with under a minute to go, the Wings take the 3-2 lead and hold on to win it 3-2 and complete that little mini 2-game sweep against the Leafs. Brian Fisher of Locked On Red Wings can't contain his excitement.
I think you would define that one as a stolen win as the Detroit Red Wings beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-2 in Toronto, completing the home sweep on Canadian Thanksgiving. It was all Cam Talbot in this one. Red Wings outshot 40-15. Cam Talbot allowing just 2 goals on 38 saves. He was spectacular. Depth scoring also a big one in this game, as it was James Van Riemsdyk in his Red Wings debut and Mason Appleton scoring their firsts as Detroit Red Wings to propel Detroit to the win offensively, but losing Lucas Raymond halfway through the second period may not have cost them this game, but if he's out for long term, could have a ripple effect on the season and put the entire season in jeopardy very fast. Scotty and I will break down the whole win over the Maple Leafs on the next episode of Locked On Red Wings.
Big point by Brian there. Lucas Raymond goes down in the middle of this game. That's why Mason Appleton was on that line. So it definitely didn't hurt them for this particular game, but that's going to be a tough one for Detroit to overcome in that search for making the playoffs the first time in a decade if he is out for any significant length of time. But they get the win today, which is more than what we can say for the LA Kings, man. This was a crazy one. Dare I say, a wild one out in Minnesota. Alex, you want to talk about a tale of 2 games here? That's what we saw in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, Jared Spurgeon got his first of the year as the Wild just came out flying in this one and took the Kings 3-0 in the first period with 3 minutes left. Goals from Spurgeon, goals from Kirill Kaprizov. Matt Boldy got a goal 20 seconds after Kaprizov scored. And the second period, LA started to tilt things a little bit back in their favor, or at least more towards even, but scoreless second period, 3-0 going into the third. And you're thinking, well, the Wild, historically one of the best defensive teams in their tenure in the NHL, and they've got one of the best defensive coaches in the league right now, and that's not the way it went down. Kevin Fiala makes it 3-1, scoring on a rebound that trickled past Jesper Wallstedt. Quentin Byfield scores on a power play about 3 minutes later, a little one-timer in the slot that never got in the air. It's 3-2 about 6 minutes and 45 seconds into the third period. Wild needed way more from Wallstedt, and they would eventually get it. But with 44 seconds left, it was Adrian Kempe scoring with the extra attacker on. Brock Faber blocked it with his butt, but it bounced right to Kempe's stick. And ultimately 3-3 going into the overtime, where LA actually gets a power play and Minnesota kills the final minute 25. You know what the crazy part about that power play was? How many passes went to Kempe that was just hit him right in the skates, man. They could not complete a pass to that dot.
It was just like back and forth, and none of them were in a shoot. It was him and Kuzmenko back and forth. They're both ready to shoot, and they just couldn't get a pass out in front of these guys. That's a significant power play too, Alex. You said a minute 25. You know, it's not like they were killing off the final 20 seconds of overtime. That was almost a full power play there that they don't kill off. And so, as you call it, it goes to the skills competition.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, worth noting, they did get about 25 extra seconds or so of the power play when they got the extra attacker on and they got Darcy Kemper off the ice. So
yeah, because that point it's just 4-on-3. It's
right.
going to be 4-on-3 anyway. You know, just
so they got it and still couldn't convert in any of that time. But skills competition, scoreless the entire way, and then finally, after a really great performance in the shootout from Jesper Wallstedt, Marco Rossi with an absolutely silky smooth, gorgeous winner. He pulled Darcy Kemper's glove down essentially and snapped one that honestly just an absolute laser of a snapshot, and that proved to be the winner. Rossi, listen, skills competition, 5-on-5, who cares? You get the job done, you get 2 points for your side, and in that stacked Central Division, every point is going to matter. So on a night when Minnesota maybe didn't have their best stuff for all 60 minutes, they still got 2 points. And with that, we'll hear from Locked On Wild's Seth Topol for tonight's win.
Wallstedt stopped them all in the shootout, and the Minnesota Wild come out on top. Hey, everybody, Seth Topol, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, recapping a 4-3 shootout win for the Minnesota Wild. The Wild got 3 power play goals in this game. Matt Boldy, Kirill Kaprizov, Jared Spurgeon. Boldy and Kaprizov, by the way, on another planet. But let's fast forward to the overtime session. Matt Boldy gets called for a penalty. So the Wild down a skater. They have got to try to kill off a 4-on-3. They do, thanks to the young buck in the net, Jesper Wallstedt. And in the shootout, Jesper stops 4 shots. Marco Rossi gets a tally, and the Wild go home happy. For more on this game and the Minnesota Wild, make sure you follow Locked On Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts.
You know, Cam, I didn't think it was Jesper Wallstedt's best night, especially in that third period. Couple of those goals. Here's the thing. None of them were grade A bad, but it was like just, he only gets a little piece of the first one. Second one is completely on the ice. Third one's a little bit of bad luck, but at day's end, he battled, man. He really did.
Yeah, and he certainly celebrated like he had gone through a lot in that game. Hey, all the power to you, man. Go through it. He had a nice celly at the end of it. It was definitely one of those that was like, you're just begging for a big save. And that's typically one you put more on the starting goaltender, right, than the backup. But it's just one of those where you said it, like not like one of these bad Sports Center, not top 10 kind of plays, but one where you're like, we need kind of a save. And it felt like the way the Kings have gone this season, that they've almost beat themselves in a couple of these games. And that's not coming from me. That's also coming from Locked On LA Kings host Eddie Garcia.
The LA Kings have been their own worst enemy early in the season. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. Kings were in Minnesota to face their fourth team in a row that made the playoffs from a year ago to open the season. And while we knew the start of the season was going to be a challenge, the Kings have hurt themselves taking way too many penalties. Kings are in the box 4 times in the opening period against the Wild, with Minnesota scoring 3 power play goals. But LA did mount a big comeback in the third period, thanks to goals from Kevin Fiala, Quentin Byfield, and Adrian Kempe tied it with the extra attacker. Unfortunately, LA couldn't convert on their own big power play opportunity in overtime, a 4-on-3 power play, despite many great looks at the net. The Kings lose in the shootout 4-3, but they salvage a point, fall to 1-2-1 on the season. So the Kings have been shorthanded 22 times in their first 4 games of the season. They've given up 7 power play goals and also have expended a lot of energy in trying to kill those penalties. So my expert analysis going forward, the Kings need to stay out of the penalty box. For a complete recap and analysis of this game and every Kings game all season long, check out Locked On LA Kings.
Eddie, he's going through it right now. He's going through it. It's early days, Eddie. It's early days. Speaking of, it could be worse. The Tampa Bay Lightning, who a lot of people thought would win the Atlantic Division this year, they were in game number 3 looking for their first win of the season. Could they get it against those stingy Boston Bruins? We'll take you there next on Locked On NHL Game Night. But first, we got to talk to you about our good friends over at FanDuel. I mean, we are in the best sports time of the year right now. NFL season in full swing. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. For me, it makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something on the action. You know, whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for, man? Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started. Once again, that's FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app, and don't waste another second. Get started today. Back here on Locked On NHL Game Night, how about this, Alex Wiederspiel? First time in John Cooper's tenure with the Tampa Bay Lightning that they lost the first 2 games in regulation. The dude's a straight-up winner. He is not used to this. We also weren't expecting the Bruins to be 3-0-0 at this point in the season. So kind of an intriguing matchup that more or less kicked off our day.
For sure, and worth noting that these Boston Bruins, in my mind, I think they're probably going to be a little better than people are expecting. They did not tear it down, and they went out and got a bunch of the type of depth that you would exactly expect to go out and win hockey games late. They had some issues, though, in this one, Cam, early.
Yeah, and it's not a team that's built to score 5 or 6 goals and win a hockey game, which is not the position you want to be in when you fall down 3-0 early in the second period. Anthony Cirelli scores 69 seconds in, gets another one at the end of the first period, and then it's 3-0, 39 seconds into the second. And that's like pack it in. Ball game. You know, Marco Sturm's coaching is very defensively structured. Try and hit him on the counterattack. Bruins are trying to win games with their defense and their goaltending. So that looks like it's it. But the second period just gets way bonkers, man. Casey Middlestat answers 30 seconds later. We get 5 goals in the second period because Tampa goes back up 4-1. Bruins get 2 in a row to make it 4-3. So we've got a hockey game, man. We are in for a wild third period that yields us 0 goals. But we did see an awesome kick save from David Pastrnak when his goalie was pulled. I mean, the dude, he can do anything except make the Bruins 4-0. They dropped their first win of the season. Lightning get their first win, and they are still going to be a dangerous team in that Atlantic Division, especially with the injuries for the other team in the Sunshine State. They win it 4-3. Speaking of 1-goal games in the Eastern Conference, let's take you to Columbus, where they had their 25th anniversary celebration tonight. New Jersey Devils coming off a somewhat disappointing season last year in that, a couple of big pieces got hurt, especially Jack Hughes after the Four Nations break. So it was kind of a death march towards the end of that season, Alex. But this game had some entertainment value.
Yes, it did. What was kind of wild, though, is so Columbus came out firing and the Devils came out kind of asleep early on, took way too many penalties, really undisciplined, and the Blue Jackets wind up with 17 of the first 20 shots in this game, all of which came in the first period, and still it was the Devils who broke the deadlock with a Timo Meier power play goal with 4 minutes left in the first. Jake Allen really kept the Devils in it, and then New Jersey started to find their feet a little bit. But as this went on, 9 minutes into the second, Kirill Marchenko picks Jack Hughes clean and scores on the breakaway 1-1. Marchenko coming off a huge game the other night, scoring again in this one. Dawson Mercer would score to get a power play goal off the rush. Great pass from Arseny Gritsyuk. 2-1 Devils. At that point, they'd ultimately win 3-2. You like to see Dawson Mercer getting involved if you're a Devils fan. He has been super inconsistent, but the upside that he has flashed has been really, really high end. That said, we're going to hear from Jay Forster, the host of Locked On Columbus.
Blue Jackets get goal lead for the second time in 3 games, and that's kind of a worrying pattern to get into, in my opinion. Jay Foster, Locked On Blue Jackets here. The Blue Jackets fall 3-2 to the New Jersey Devils. They have life at the end there. Ivan Provorov, Dmitry Vronkov make it interesting with a goal with 20 seconds remaining, but they can't figure it out, and another regulation loss, another loss for Jet Greaves, who is going to be 0-2 on the season despite having approximately a .930 save percentage through those 2 games. Just a really disappointing game on a lot of levels. Lots to like, but also at a certain point you have to win these games, right? And the thing for me, actually, that I think is the biggest takeaway from this game is when will the penalty kill return from war? Because it's been gone forever, and if they're going to keep doing crime, they have to stop being unable to kill penalties. We're going to discuss a lot of that on tomorrow's Locked On Blue Jackets, which you can find wherever you get podcasts and over on YouTube. Until then, stay locked on.
I hope that penalty kill returns from war.
I absolutely demand more analysis from Jay immediately. That was fantastic. If they're going to do more crime, they're going to have to be better at serving the time. That was great. No, that was great. And he's spot on, by the way, because who would have thought that the Jackets would struggle with Jet Greaves at a .930? Remember, he almost single-handedly catapulted them into the playoffs last year with a final 2 weeks of the season where he went .940. So it's kind of shocking early on. But again, early results. But you would think they would get better results coming with them if Greaves is basically just going to follow up with what he did at the end of last season.
Yeah, I mean, most teams would kill to have a guy with that kind of save percentage. The back end of last season, like you said, and the start of this season. I'll tell you one of those teams that would have really liked it over the last couple of years. How about the Colorado Avalanche? They could have used some big saves at a couple different points since they won the Stanley Cup back in 2022. They needed no such luck. They needed no such skill against the Buffalo Sabres today, because I think if they played the entire game 6-on-5 at an empty goal, they might have still come away with, I'd say, like a 5-2 victory. Instead, it's 3-1. Tage Thompson does get his first goal of the season for Buffalo in game number 4 here. But Colorado, I mean, you look across, even with Tage Thompson's goal, it's just stars all across the score sheet. Nathan McKinnon on the board twice. Cale Makar gets the other one. A multi-point night from Marty Necas, who was all over the ice in this one. Man, is he looking good to start out this season for Colorado. But Alex, this Sabres team, they've had problems in basically everything the last 15 years when they haven't made the playoffs. But the last 2, they've been a wide open, fun to watch hockey team. It's the other part they couldn't get right. Now they just can't put the puck in the net.
You could not enter the third period of a game down 3-1 with the threat of going 0-3 without a single overtime point, loser point to your name, and then get outshot 11-2, outchanced 9-5, out high dangered 5-2. Like every single possession stat, Colorado should have in theory been packing it in, right? They should have been playing tight, lock it down. Colorado owned the puck in a third period where Buffalo had to have it. That is a bad and worrying sign for a team that, by the way, decided to stake their season on a 1C in Josh Norris, who had missed 148 games in the last 4 years. And you know where Josh Norris wasn't today? On the ice for that exact reason. It's a real problem in Buffalo, man.
And I hope they didn't stay up long enough to see what JJ Peterka did. We'll get to that game later on, but it could be another another long season in Buffalo, unfortunately for them. It's been a long couple of years in Philadelphia, which is no love lost for a lot of the rest of the league. The Flyers are trying to just build off what they had last year in a Matvei Michkov. Great rookie year. They get the defending champs in their building for the home opener tonight, but it was surprisingly Philly's night in this one. Florida still handling a lot of those injuries, obviously with Barkov and Tkachuk, and it just feels like every game they're a little out of sorts. It was Sean Couturier's night for the Flyers, a 3-point night, including the game-winning goal in the third period. This thing was 2-2 up until the dying minutes of the third period. Couturier gets his second goal, his third point, but really this comes from an unbelievable Trevor Zegras play behind the net. Like, you can call it backyard hockey, you can call it pond hockey, however you want, but this dude is playing the defending Stanley Cup champs, the best forechecking team in the league, and they've got two guys crashing in on him in Gretzky's office, and he makes an incredible play to get it to Couturier to win this one. They get a couple empty netters and make it look a little bit more lopsided, 5-2. But in a clutch moment, Trevor Zegras is coming through. Like, this is what he can give you. This is what Anaheim probably gave up on too early.
You think that was gritty enough for John Tortorella? Do you think that pass was gritty enough for Torts? Because that was
works so many different ways.
He took the heat from the literal best forechecking team in all of hockey, and he makes that play. It's an incredible play. And by the way, Philadelphia could have packed this in. The Panthers came from behind down 2-0, made it 2-2, and they were dominating that third period for a while. And Trevor Zegras' pass totally changed the momentum, and that goal for Couturier totally changed the momentum. That's a huge moment in this season, and the first win for Tocchet.
Yes, first win for Rick Tocchet, Flyers legend. First goal of the season for the Conn Smythe Trophy winner, Sam Bennett. That was the game tire at 2-2. I wasn't really sure what Dan Vladar was doing. Really sold out for a backdoor pass that was end up being behind the goal line by the time it got to the stick there, and then a little pass around the net. Sam Bennett is looking at a wide open net. So still some things to work on in Philly, but they'll take a big time Trevor Zegras point, 3 from Sean Couturier, and a win over the defending Stanley Cup champions. Rachel Donner of Locked On Flyers, she'll certainly take it as well.
The Philadelphia Flyers got their first win of the season in their home opener and rematch versus the Florida Panthers. Hi, I'm Rachel Donner from Locked On Flyers, and I might just be a Dan Vladar truther now. Head coach Rick Tocchet decided to start the supposed season backup for the second time so far this season against the defending champs, and he was up to the challenge. He had to be extra sharp because the Flyers were shorthanded a lot in the game. He faced 4 shots from shorthanded Panthers units as well on the rush. But of course, the offensive hero of the game was Captain Sean Couturier with a 4-point night, including an incredible pass from Trevor Zegras that Couturier finished off. That was the game winner. He was mobbed behind the net and somehow got the puck out to Couturier for that goal. The final score was 5-2, and we'll have more on this game on the Tuesday show of the Locked On Flyers podcast.
First win for Rick Tocchet, like you mentioned. First win for Rick Tocchet behind the Flyers bench. Let's go check in on his old team, shall we? Vancouver hosting the team that closed out the regular season as the hottest team in hockey last year, the St. Louis Blues. We'll have it for you next on Locked On NHL Game Night. But first, you got to hear from our friends over at Monarch Money. You know, most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, be it the 401ks, the properties or investments. When you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And I don't know about you, but I like it more in my pocket. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you've been busy or if you've been putting off your finances because you've been so busy, Monarch is here for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You link all your accounts in minutes. You see your clear data visuals. You don't ever have to touch a spreadsheet. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNHL. Back to it on Locked On NHL Game Night. Let's send it out to the Pacific Northwest. Alex, one of your favorite teams last year, from what I could tell, was the Vancouver Canucks. And anytime Alex wants to be derogatory towards a team, he's like, this is the new Canucks. This is the new Canucks coming up right here. And it did kind of fit tonight, Alex. Like, this was a patented 2024-25 Vancouver Canucks game. Like just enough to make it interesting a couple of times, but credit to the Blues. They just kept having the answer in this one.
Their dysfunction last year, they were basically the West Coast Rangers, which is a real shame because that's a Canucks fan base that deserves better than what they got in this one tonight, and generally what they got all of last season. And man, the Blues, I think the big thing here is that St. Louis, that's an organization that has absolutely refused to do a rebuild. And you look at one of the young players they got in this sort of retool on the fly, Jimmy Snuggerud, and he scored twice in this one, including opening the scoring. He got demoted to the third line, scores off an Elias, I'm assuming Elias Pettersson turnover here. Though which one, I couldn't tell you. There are too many Petterssons on the Canucks right now.
And too many turnovers, too.
That is true. Snugs would score twice in this game. Braden Shen would score on a terrific play by Jordan Kyrou on a great stretch pass from Philip Broberg. Now, Kiefer Sherwood added 2 for the Canucks. That was the lone bright spot, but the fourth line for St. Louis put this game out of reach with a 4-2 lead in the second off of a Nathan Walker goal. And I'm very high on St. Louis. I know you're a Bruins guy. I think Jim Rutherford Jim Montgomery. Jim Rutherford on the other side, but Jim Montgomery, I think he's probably one of the finest regular season coaches in the NHL, and I think he's got these Blues moving right now.
Yeah, and I won't spend too long on it, but for what it's worth, I don't think it was Jim Montgomery's fault what happened the last 2 years in Boston. But, I mean, the way he had him playing after the Four Nations break last year was incredible. And this is like a sneaky, big win. I don't know if there's any big wins 3 or 4 games into the season, but, if you're St. Louis, you know you're still going to be a fringe playoff team, even after how well you played the last 2 months of the season. This is a team that, at best, is just on your level. They're not better than you. You're playing them on the road, kind of a tricky game. You go out west, and it's an afternoon game out west, and they really had control of this game the whole night. So that's a nice regular season win, Jim Montgomery and the St. Louis Blues. One team that is supposed to make that jump this year, maybe taking the Blues spot at some point in the playoff picture in the wild card, is the Utah Mammoth. Right? Good, young, fun team. They add JJ Peterka in the offseason. But whereas St. Louis goes to Vancouver and wins a game against an inferior team, the Mammoth had no such luck, and it was kind of an inauspicious night. Felt like the Boston Garden in the 88 finals. The lights go out 6 minutes into the game. They come back pretty quickly, but it was kind of weird. And then you got some weird goal scoring from the Blackhawks because it was Ilya Mikheyev who's the star in this one. Patented Mikheyev hard work and shift that leads to a goal, ends up 1-0 in the second period. We go early in the third for our next goal, and I teased it earlier, Buffalo fans, so cover your ears. JJ Peterka finally opens up his Utah account 62 seconds into the third period to make it 1-1. And at this point, they were dominating Chicago. By the time the Mammoth evened up the score, Chicago had 9 shots in this game. By the way, it didn't get much better. 9 minutes into the third, though, Andrei Burakovsky on a power play. Nobody picks him up. Vitek Vanacek is just waving his stick because no one's with him in the slot. Easy as you like. 2-1 Blackhawks. They would not give it up. They actually played pretty well and pretty strong down the stretch of this game because Vitek Vanacek couldn't get out of the net until 34 seconds left in a 1-goal game. Ilya Mikheyev puts it into the empty net, gets his second of the night. 14th shot on net. 14th shot on net, and they win it by 2 goals. In fact, the 2 teams in this game combined for 3 less shots than the Leafs had in their game, a one that they lost as well. First win for Chicago in their centennial season. First win for Jeff Blashill as well. So big night in Chicago. Talk about a team that went into the playoffs last year, Alex. It wasn't a very good night on the scoreboard, even though the Ottawa Senators dominated up in the nation's capital.
Yeah, Brady Tkachuk went down the tunnel in the first period with a potential injury after taking a cross check from Roman Josi, and everything generally favored Ottawa in this one. They were 6 of 6 on the penalty kill, more shots, 71% to 29% from the dot. And we're going to set it to Ann Kimmel from Locked On Senators.
Marchessault is a new man in Nashville this season. Hey everyone, Ann Kimmel from the Locked On Predators podcast. After a first season with the Predators that left Jonathan Marchessault very vocally dissatisfied, he has returned to the ice this season as an absolute man possessed. He scored 2 goals in Nashville's 4-1 win Monday over the Ottawa Senators. The sophomore year familiarity certainly helps Marchessault, but really what is helping unlock his game is new line mates, Eric Haula and Michael Bunting. These 3 have been hands down the best line for the Nashville Predators so far this season. We're going to see if Marchessault and his line mates can continue their feisty and successful play tomorrow night against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Tough stretch to open up a season for a Nashville team that was pretty bad last year. But if you're banking on bounce back years and you're banking on them from Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos, you could do a lot worse. I would say that. Definitely could do a lot worse.
Yeah, and there are folks who are forgetting that Andrew Brunette may not be coming off the best previous season as a head coach, but he's had some really, really good stretches as both an assistant and a head coach where he has brought out the best in teams that have had trouble scoring in the past. Jets and Islanders, by the way, our final game of the night, Cam, if you can believe, it was a packed Canadian Thanksgiving / Columbus Day, and the Jets went all the way to the island, and they pretty much took care of business, got up early 2-0 in the first. A Nino Niederreiter power play goal. J.G. Pageau would answer, but Winnipeg would pour it on and ultimately win 5-2. Though some early good signs from defenseman Matthew Schaefer, who I think has averaged something like 26 minutes a night in these first 3 games. Gil Martin from Locked On New York Islanders has more on the loss.
Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders here. Islanders fall to the Winnipeg Jets 5-2 in a game where the team just wasn't good enough. They are now 0-3 on the season, and really all 3 phases of this game not looking very good. The Islanders dominated the first few minutes of this game. Then Anders Lee takes a bad penalty. Suddenly the Islanders are down 2-0. They score to make it 2-1, and then a dozen seconds later give up a goal to make it 3-1. That was their big chance. Too many defensive breakdowns. Poor play by Ilya Sorokin, and just no answer for a bigger, more skilled, more physical Winnipeg Jets team. For more in-depth daily coverage of your New York Islanders, check out the Locked On Islanders podcast.
And that was it. 10 games in the books on the day. And it was the day full of power play goals. Minnesota had 3. I think their last 7 goals have come at with the man advantage. And it was almost the day, Alex Wiederspiel, was almost the day that they all ended in regulation. Almost. Our penultimate game, which started 3-0, is the only one that ends up going to overtime. And of course, that goes to the shootout. We go back to Minnesota for that one. But what a day of hockey.
And it's going to get even better tomorrow. Not as many games, but how about Minnesota on the back end of the game they had to play tonight? They're going to go to Dallas tomorrow against a well-rested Stars team. That's going to be a tough one tomorrow. And Edmonton traveling all the way across the continent to face the New York Rangers.
Oh, man. You know where, is there any place like afterwards or the next morning when I want to hear all the scores and everything that happened? Like, is there a place I could go to for that, Alex?
I'm not familiar with any such place. Oh, right. Locked On Game Night, folks. Right here. Right
Might
here.
as well just try right here. As a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. He's Alex Wiederspiel. I'm Cam Stewart. You can follow along all season long on Locked On NHL Game Night. So, guys, be sure to get your comments in below. What was your big takeaway from tonight? Last night? What are you looking forward to for Tuesday night? Let us know in the comment section below. Then be sure to like and subscribe to follow us all season long on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We will see you tomorrow on the next edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.